Hello, people. I see we're gathering. All the early birds are here.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Rick, Steve, and Lynn. I know you by name, but I don't think we've ever met. But if we have, forgive me if I don't remember. But
that's okay. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm going to start by commenting on Steve's background. And here I'm referring to the screen, not to his personal background.
Yeah. I thought that was actually classified, so thank you for that.
The last time you and I were on a Zoom call, you had some kind of taking us through some extraterrestrial view of some distant planet or something. I can't remember what it was.
It was probably the comet Neowise.
Okay.
Because that's so far my proudest achievement with my fancy newish telescope that is trying to get me through this pandemic isolation period.
Yeah, look at other places other planets that maybe don't have COVID-19, but
something like that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to ask about your current background. Or do you row?
So that was another reaction to the pandemic. I bought an indoor rowing machine, a new fancy dancy, sort of some people call it the Peloton of rowing machines. So it's kind of internet connected, coaching. It's fantastic, actually. It's unbelievable. I've been wanting to do this for years. So it took the pandemic to get me there.
Well, Steve, you and I have done the same thing. So that's why I didn't get the Peloton version. I got a Concept 2, which
this is the Hydro, Ken.
Oh yeah, I looked at that and I considered it, but I get in this other one. But I end up enjoying. My two pandemic things. I bought this Concept 2 machine, like you did, and then for a number of months I've picked up my my affection from youth, which is playing the trumpet.
Wow.
And I played it for many years and I haven't done it for years. So I picked it up. So when I have time, I call it the row and blow workout. And I can, and it's good on many fronts so
are you enjoying the rowing?
Yeah, I think it's great. I have a kind of a wonky ankle that I have to worry about, but that's kind of why I got the rowing machine, because it's not that your ankle doesn't get it's not pounding, but I like it. You can get a pretty good workout, and there's also a lot of YouTube workouts out there that are very good, and people that are happy to yell at you, know. So
no, that's fabulous. I share your experience. I think it's absolutely fabulous.
I will say where I went to graduate school, crew was big, and it always looked very from afar, standing on the shore. It looked so elegant. I know I know it can be brutal, but it looks so elegant, and I harbor some fantasies about actually getting out there and trying it for real. But
so do you know if there are actually any rowing clubs here that go out on the reservoirs? Seems to me I've seen signs for youth rowing or something like that.
But I haven't you've invested more than I have, I think, in this, but I don't know. I know there's some people that there are some I won't call them yacht clubs, but I mean aquatic clubs that go out on the Great Salt Lake.
Well, there's the Great Salt Lake Yacht Club.
There is the actual yacht club, which you have to have like proper boats, I guess. I've seen them, but there are others that are doing this. What do they call it? Stand-up rowing. What do you call that?
Paddleboard.
Paddleboard. Yeah, whatever. I know there's a group that does that. So yeah. Well, looks like, let's see. We're getting a number of people on the call. I'm glad to see I'm trying to just get my view so I can get a better view of who's all on the call. And we're up to 18 people. That's great. And maybe we'll just give people one more minute and then we'll just dive in, and I hope this to be really interactive and I hear more from you guys than you hear from me. But let's give people, let's see, what do we have? We're 19. Okay, let's see if I can get to 20. And that'll be our, and if I don't get 20 in another minute, we'll start anyway, but I feel like I'm doing one of those NPR fund drives, if we could just have 2 more callers. And by the way, there we go. Okay. If you want to, I probably should use this as a fundraiser as well. If you want to sign in and give us money, that would be even better. Okay. That's the end of my ad hoc portion of the program. Listen, welcome everybody. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I suspect we'll have maybe people coming and going over the hour, but that's okay, of course. And I'm just going to start with some of the boring parts, which is the housekeeping. I just say as a personal matter, I will actually have to step off, hard stop at 1 because we're doing interviews of some candidates for position, and I'm on the search committee, so I'll have to step off right at 1, so I won't be able to linger, assuming we go that long. So, but and then we are recording this because some people gave their regrets, but would like to hear the discussion, and so just note that we are recording, and you should probably see that on your screen as well. So let me start with a few preliminary things. Number 1, so this year through Nexus, we started this discussion, this seminar series called Dialogue on Disparities, and this was launched back in the fall. We actually have at this time next week, we have Michelle Debbink, who's going to give her presentation on disparities in maternal morbidity, severe maternal morbidity. And so, new moms who have sort of severe medical problems afterwards and issues surrounding that. So that should be a very interesting talk. And I've heard Michelle present. She's very energetic if you don't already know her. And so we have this interest in disparities, and we were doing this in coordination with the Fair and Equitable Society initiative out of Dan Reed's office. And so we knew that he was promoting a variety of activities in that realm. The interview that I mentioned at the top of the hour that I'll have to step out for, we are in fact recruiting and interviewing finalists for an executive director who will help to coordinate on campus the very many activities that are in this domain. So right now we have a lot of people, including those on the call, but there are many other groups on campus that are doing a variety of things, as you would expect. And some of you, if you heard Daryl Butt's presentation in this series last time, he showed a list that was very, very long. So we need a coordinator. So that's actually one of the initiatives coming out of Dan Reed's Fair and Equitable Society initiative. So that's very exciting to have that happen, have somebody who really could sort of be at the helm. But we also, on the research side, we wanted to, Nexus wanted to play a role in really encouraging work on this very admittedly broad domain. And it's certainly our assessment as well that there are so many things going on, and we, not that we can lay claim to being the Uber coordinator in this area, but we wanted to at least initiate the idea of having Nexus be a focal point, to be a coordinator and a focal point for work in this space. So that's sort of where this idea came from. And I think, and like I said, I don't want to do all the talking here, but I will say that one of the tangible things that we are hoping to accomplish is just to encourage team building and grant writing. I think in the very brief blurb that went out to with this invite was that I would consider our 1 hour today and then subsequent meetings we hope to have is that if we can generate or perhaps improve ongoing proposal ideas, if we can improve on them or add to those that are being contemplated in team building. And if we could do that, I would consider this exercise a success. And I would hope that it's more than just an exercise. So before we're small enough in number, I would really want to get people to introduce themselves so we can get the kind of ideas that people have. And so I want to structure it that way. And then also, I'm hoping by the end, I don't know if Austin is on the call. I don't see him. Okay. I would like to hopefully, if there are some ideas that people are orbiting and want to be part of, that we can have follow-on meetings for specific ideas that maybe bubble up. And then my final preliminary comment before we introduce ourselves is that on your Outlook entry, there was a spreadsheet that Austin Wesley did using Pivot, and it was in the areas that we asked you about, just keywords: inequality, disparities, poverty, environmental justice. Of course, there are many more, and these are just grant opportunities and that we could just identify on Pivot. So it was just something to put in the invite, just so if you want to refer to them. I don't claim to have any deep understanding about any one of them, but just it was really kind of a menu of ideas that are out there. And in that vein, I invited, and I'm glad that both Cindy Brown from our own college in the grants office, and then Lynn Wong with corporate and foundations in the park. I think you're in the park building, if I'm not mistaken, to be here as well. And I hope they can contribute to the conversation about potential opportunities and maybe ways to go forward in terms of grant ideas and funding opportunities. So I will just quickly introduce myself if you don't already know me. So I'm Ken Smith. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Family Consumer Studies, and I also, part of my appointment is also up at Huntsman Cancer Institute, and then I also direct the Nexus Interdisciplinary Center that many of you know about. And I'm happy to just facilitate today, and I'm looking forward to all of your comments. So I am just going to, maybe if you don't mind, I will start with Lynn and Cindy, because they're sort of at the top of my Hollywood squares, and just have them quickly introduce themselves, apart from what I already said. So maybe Lynn, if you wouldn't mind going first.
Sure. So I'm Lynn Wong. I'm Director of Foundation Relations for UHealth. I've been there for about 3.5 years. And I also invited Daniel Hadley and Gwen Alush to join us. Between the three of us, we sort of cover the whole of the campus when it comes to the university's strategic relationships with foundations.
Okay, thank you. Do you want them to introduce themselves, or did you just do that?
It's up to you.
Yeah, I'll just say hello and introduce myself. I'm Gwen Alush. I'm the Associate Director of Foundation Relations. And as Lynn said, we work on the foundations team and connect faculty across campus with foundation funding opportunities. And I think it's really great that we're part of this discussion today. We welcome any opportunity to have discussions like these with faculty, to get to know your projects and programs and research, and also how we can help you with finding opportunities, but also we can assist with some of the grant writing or editing and those relationships too. So thanks for having us.
Great, thank you, Gwen. And Daniel, do you want? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ken. Good to meet you all. I'm glad to be here. new to the advancement team, but I've been at the place called Sorensen Impact Center. And of note, we kind of built a strategy around what in the Gates Foundation they call equitable foresight. So really thinking about grounding equity and student outcomes and research. And this allowed us to be successful with 3 plus grants with the Gates Foundation and others. So it's been a really important part of our strategy at the center, and I think at the U more generally. So I'm really glad to be part of this conversation. And the other thing I'll say is I've started to meet with some of you, but my email is daniel.hadley@admin.utah.edu, and as the new foundations director on campus, I'm very excited to meet with others of you and discuss your projects, how we can be of use, and any opportunities that you're looking at with national foundations.
Great, Daniel, thank you. And thank you to the 3 of you. I'm glad you all 3 could make it. And I assume people will be in contact with you directly, but and Cindy, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure.
Cindy Brown.
Hi, I'm Cindy Brown, and I'm the manager of the Office of Research Administration in the College of Social Behavioral Science. So our group has been formed to help faculty member in their grant submissions, primarily with budget development and submitting the applications. We will prepare them online for you, so you don't have to, and all the background information that we need to do for the institution and OSP, we'll gather that and submit that for you as well. So we just kind of are there with you through the whole process, and happy to do so. We enjoy what we do, and so I'm glad that Ken invited me to be here today.
Thank you, Cindy. And I've worked a lot with Cindy over the years, both through HCI and the college, and Cindy's on your side, I'll just say. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just going to call people out as they appear on my screen. If you wouldn't mind just quickly introducing yourself, and certainly if you have ideas that you're actively working on and you're seeking collaborators, maybe you might want to just point that out as well. And then when we're done, I'm really going to turn over to everybody if they want to sort of push on an idea, and then how we might want to take advantage of this gathering, and maybe others that couldn't make it who you might want to talk about. But I do want to keep this more interactive. So I'm going to start with Rick. Rick Forster, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rick Forster, Associate Dean for Research in the College in Social Behavioral Science. My research area actually isn't in this particular topic, but I'm kind of here to help support research and facilitate interdisciplinary research, particularly associated through Nexus. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Rick. And Tom Maloney, you're next on my screen.
Okay, I'm Tom Maloney, Department of Economics. Currently working with a colleague, Eunice Hahn, on educational disparities. Also doing some stuff on gender and work. And in the past, I've done work on the immigrant community and sort of originally a lot of stuff on African-American economic history and racial inequality, though I'm less active in those areas right now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tom. And Kurt Wilson.
Hi, I'm Kurt. I'm a PhD candidate in anthropology in CSBS. I work both with ethnographic and archaeological data. I'm really interested in, and I work with, and my dissertation and future work revolves around the ways that local environments interact with and enable inequality or disfavor inequalities kind of in material resources and resource power or resource access. So I have potential ideas within that, things that I'm kind of working on, but also interested in collaborations because I do a lot of interdisciplinary stuff working with environment, ethnographic, archaeological data. And I don't know, I have skills in agent and individual-based modeling and computational analysis and spatial analysis. So those are the types of things I'm interested in working with and how they interact with inequality.
Great, thank you, Kurt. Next on my screen is Fernando Wilson.
Hi there, Fernando. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Economics, and I have a second appointment in the School of Medicine. And my interest in general is in regard to immigration health disparities. My colleagues and I are actually thinking through an R1 submission for this summer, going after the addressing the ideology of health disparities among immigrants. And in particular, we're interested in looking at the impact of local, state, and national policies and impacting their access to care and health outcomes. And it's good to see you all.
Great, thank you, Fernando. And then next on my screen, Catherine Rushland.
Hi there. I am also in the Department of Economics, and I came to this meeting because I'm currently working on a project on childcare, both on access to childcare services and disparities, regional disparities in that access, but also in the labor market for childcare workers and the way those two issues collide. I know it's a pretty hot political economy topic right now with a lot of potential for interdisciplinary research. So I thought I might find someone on here who's working on a similar track. So I'd be really interested in hearing from anybody who's working in that area.
Catherine, thank you very much. It is a hot topic. And speaking of hot topics, next person is Norm Weitzman.
Not generally introduced as the hot topic, Ken, but at any rate, hi folks. Professor and chair of economics, and I'm a health economist with a grounding in labor economics, and looking, a lot of my research has been on the social disparities or social inequalities in health, and working together with Ken and others right now in developing what's called a total worker health proposal to NIOSH. That involves some nice linkage of data.
Great, Norm, thank you. And next on my screen is Tabitha Benny.
That's me, boss. Tabitha Benny, Associate Professor in Political Science. I'm an interdisciplinary researcher doing work on structural inequality, vulnerable populations, and mainly health disparities related to air pollution. We've been doing a lot with indoor-outdoor air pollution, particularly right now, and also looking at disease transmission related to air pollution specifically. But I'm open to broader categories. I've done this both locally and internationally. And so I'd be curious to see if others are interested in sort of looking at different scales in particular. It'd be really cool.
Thank you, Tabitha. And next is from my own department, David Curtis. David?
Hey, thanks, Ken, for organizing this. So I'm a relatively new assistant professor in family and consumer studies and interested in racial health disparities, especially community level influences, structural and social. And so just recently submitted a K that relates to like recreational and green spaces at the neighborhood level as predictors of obesity risk and physical activity. But my interests are, certainly bigger than that. And so I've done a bunch on maternal health outcomes as well. So, but no, I'm not coming with any specific projects. I guess I'm mostly just coming to lurk, so.
Okay, lurking is allowed. Lurking with follow through, I'll say, is allowed. Okay, next, Annie Fukushima. Oh, Annie, we're not. It doesn't look like you're on mute, but we can't hear you. Still muted.
She looks unmuted, but we can't hear her.
Yeah. Now you're officially muted on our side. Should we come back to you, Annie? Maybe if you can kick the tires and then we'll come back. Okay. All right. Next, Brenda Bowen.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all here. I'm a professor in the Geology and Geophysics department in the College of Mines and Earth Sciences, where I study coupled human natural systems. And right now I'm working a lot in the West Desert and Bonneville Basin on sort of landscape change, and interested on the connections between how the changes in things like the salt cover and sediments exposed and dust are impacting things around the environment and air quality. I'm also the director of the Global Change and Sustainability Center, which is one of the main reasons I'm here, although I'd be interested to explore my own research as well. And so through the GCSE, we have about 150 faculty from across campus, essentially all of kind of the lower campus, main campus environmental scholars who are working on air, water, justice, ecosystem changes, climate change, all kinds of things. If you're not familiar with the GCSE, I encourage you to go to environment.utah.edu to learn more. And I'd love to follow up with anyone who is interested. Like Ken and Nexus, GCSE is excited to help facilitate things going forward through this Fair and Equitable Societies initiative. And I'm sure Ken and I will need to put our heads together about how to coordinate some of those collaborations going forward. One thing we've been talking a lot about in GCSE sort of leadership circles is possibilities for more graduate student training in the areas around the connection between health disparities and inequities and environmental change. And so I think there's a lot of people on this call who I would love to have involved in any of those conversations. If that's something you're interested in, we've gone after NRT's big NSF graduate training program several times. And I think that's something the U is well poised to be successful in, but we'd need a good team to pull it together. Yeah, that's enough for me. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Brenda. And really, thank you for really highlighting the GCSC, because you guys are doing such great work. And okay, Dennis away.
Okay, I'm Dennis. I'm a professor in geography. So I have background in geography, planning, urban studies. I work with interdisciplinary people. I've done papers with economics people, sociology, political science, education, planning, so quite interdisciplinary. I have done a lot of work on China, but also increasingly on Utah as well. We have done papers about projects by transportation and community, about mobility, urban sprawl, neighborhood change, so in Salt Lake County. So my background research mainly urban geography, inequality, urbanization, urban sprawl, mobility, quite broad. So I've been working with the Ford Foundation, NSF, so also exploring other opportunities.
Great, thank you, Dennis. And now we have our resident rower, Steve Bannister is next on my screen. If you're talking, Steve, we can't hear you.
Now you can hear me?
Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, my error. Now we're a rowing team, Ken, so.
Yeah, there you go, okay.
So Steve Bannister on the Faculty of Economics, also director of the MIAGE program in the Programs of Public Affairs. I have done fairly recently some collaborative research and publishing in the disparity in health outcomes by neighborhood and the economic consequences of those. My primary research interest, though, is in many aspects of energy. I'm a macroeconomist, so I have that point of view on it from a growth and development standpoint, but also all the environmental impacts. And increasingly, it looks like, well, and I've known this for a long time, but it looks like the fact that there's huge energy inequalities by demographic groups is going to be, I think, a more important topic going forward, as part of social justice and all that. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Steve. Next on my screen is Kadrina Rada.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. I'm Kadrina Rada from the Department of Economics, and I'm a macroeconomist as well by training. So I'm looking at disparities from point of view of macro indicators, and specifically current and recent work has focused on sort of sources and causes of the decline in the share of income going to labor. We look at sectoral contributions to changes in the labor share of income, as well in the context of location. So, for example, we look at how much sectors such as finance or manufacturing or certain services sectors have contributed to changes in income distribution at the macro level. Yeah, that's briefly what we are currently doing, what I'm currently doing here with a couple of my colleagues in the department.
Great, thank you. And next on my screen, we have just a few more, but no less important. Teresa Sheets.
Hi, I actually have to run right after this, but I'm Teresa Sheets. I'm a third-year graduate student in the math department, and I'm currently working on an F31. The project involves using a math model of the spread of COVID through homeless shelters in Salt Lake. And so I'm really interested in how sort of the intersection of broader societal problems end up hurting our less fortunate populations additionally. And so that's sort of what brought me to Nexus initially, and I'd be happy to have people to collaborate with.
Teresa, I know if you have to go, so I'm just going to make a quick comment if people don't mind. I'm not sure the nature of at least the empirical basis of what you're going to do, but we do have another project where we already have all the testing data throughout the COVID pandemic from Intermountain and the University of Utah, organized into genealogies and location. And I'm not sure what you have, but so there's another project, but that we may want to have a chat more about, given your particular topic, which I think is very interesting.
Sure, that sounds excellent.
Okay, thank you. And next, Ellis, you're next on my screen.
Hi, Ken. Nice to see you. And everyone else. I'm Ellis Scharfnicker in the Department of Economics as well. My research is broadly in statistical methodologies, and currently co-writing a book on information theoretic foundations of statistics, and applying that to studying income inequality by looking at the distributional outcomes, but not restricted to just personal income, but also just looking at the ways in which information theory and statistical mechanics can help inform both our models and theory in terms of explaining the kind of statistical outcomes in complex systems. And I'm working in the RDC right now with the internal census data on wages and salaries as a way of applying these concepts. And I have ambitions this year to apply for the methodology, measurement, and statistics NSF program in the Division of Social and Economic Sciences. So I certainly, in terms of measurements, statistical measurements of things like inequality and distributional outcomes, I'm hoping to make some progress there.
Great, Ellis, thank you, and thanks for bringing up the RDC, which I'll make a comment about that when we're through here. Let's see, Lori, I know you came in a little bit late, but
I'm very late. I'm so sorry. It's just that day.
We saw you. I know people try to sneak in the back of the room, but with Zoom, we can see you. So we'll let you quickly introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Lori Zableski Jones, and what are we doing? Just like name, rank, and serial number, or disciplinary background? What do you want?
Just yeah, who you are, and then if you have what your ideas in the disparities space.
Okay.
Projects, yeah.
All right, so I'm a sociologist by training, demographer. I'm chair of family consumer studies. My projects, I've got two big ones right now. And one of them is an IDDK grant that I have with Ken that is exploring the intergenerational transmission of diabetes risk from parent to child or to offspring, and the role of the neighborhood in interdicting in that process. And that's using the UPDB. So it has kind of a disparities kind of point of view in terms of like differential access to neighborhoods and things like that. I'm also working on a project with Kathleen Zick and Norm, who I like to see all of my collaborators in one space. This is more squarely kind of in a disparities place. We are working on a project called Connect to Collect, where we are trying to increase the, maybe Norm's already talked about this, so I'll just keep it brief, but we are using free tax preparation and trusted locations to increase the uptake of the EITC, and in hopes that that will have an important benefit for the state of Utah as well as families, and then doing some follow-up and some research surrounding that. So I think I'll hush now.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Lori. And I think we've gone through everybody. Annie, it sounds like maybe your mic is still out. I know you have put thank you for putting your background in the chat. And so I don't know that I could do it justice. I will just say I do work with Annie on the Gender-Based Violence Consortium, and I'll just sing your praises, Annie. Annie is terrific. That's my abstract for introducing you. And she's doing some great work that you can see here in the chat. And I'm sorry your microphone is out. Anyway, technology always a challenge. So, okay, thank you everybody. I appreciate. I know it takes a little bit of time to get through everybody's background, but I think it's always useful just to see the wide range of topics and interests, and also maybe the solicitation from some of you who might want collaborators or want to connect up on certain topics. What I wanted to do next was just give Lynn, maybe if you and Daniel and Gwen, if you were listening into these topics, is there something, if you have any reactions right now about directions, or just any reaction you might have about topics, and if you want to add that now, I'll just yeah.
I'm mostly just really excited. I'm actually offline texting Daniel and Gwen, like, how about this foundation for this work? So, all day long, we meet with faculty who are seeking foundation support, and we sort of simultaneously look through foundation opportunities. And, the magic is when they align, of course. But we often find ourselves with foundation opportunities and we don't have the perfect match. So the more we know about your work, the better able we are to make that connection to a foundation opportunity. So this is like our dream, that we in 30 minutes just got this incredible preview of all of these different projects. So thank you for that. And I'll just put in a plea. I know you've probably all have, or many of you have experience with foundations, and you're working with Cindy, who's, a fantastic resource for working with OSP. But if you could just drop us an email and let us know when you have proposals going into foundations. For the most part, we won't act as like a gatekeeper. We'll sometimes just say good luck, or we'll say, if you'd like a second set of eyes, we're happy to look it over. But in some cases, we do know of existing connections, either in administration or across campus with other faculty members, and we can, utilize those relationships, where it just helps us to know. We can also, if we know that you're engaged at a high level with a foundation, and then we know of another faculty member, we can sort of let them know that they should wait a little while. Or so that's kind of my plea, is anytime you can just let us know that you're looking at a foundation or interacting with a foundation in any way, that helps us a lot to do our work. we have some specific opportunities. Gwen pulled a few together, but maybe that's preliminary right now, but happy to go over some of the open opportunities or just to, join the conversation.
So if I may just ask a general question, and certainly others on the call, please just jump in. But just the way you framed it is that if you already know you're looking at a foundation, maybe reach out to you. But what if you are still in that discovery stage where you just want to know what foundations are there to even go after, pursue? Is that?
Yeah, we would love to meet with you and explain. Yeah, we can run searches for you and let you know of open opportunities in your areas of interest, and explain how we work and the different services that we can offer. We never sort of bypass OSP. I know sometimes there's a feeling like advancement and OSP are these two separate pathways, and if you're working with one of us, you can't work with the other. And that's not the case at all. We're always happy to be involved, help identify opportunities. And then when it's the process time and things have to be submitted, we always follow the right pathway and send it through OSP, but we could still work on all of those opportunities. And yeah, happy to have those preliminary discussions.
And then just one other point, do you also provide, do you actually do kind of match.com between people who are maybe at the beginning and match them with somebody who has, like Dennis Way, for example, mentioned the Ford Foundation, others I know have other foundation experiences, where you can put investigator to investigator, not so maybe on the same topic, but just on the process and tips and things like that. Is that something you do, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. We've mostly done it on an informal ad hoc basis when we're meeting with faculty. If they express an interest and we know of a connection to a foundation, then we'll make those introductions. And we've also talked a little bit about doing it in a more formal way, taking a funder that is a little bit hard to break into and setting up a panel with some successful grantees at the university so that they can, help to inform their colleagues about how they were successful.
Great. And then, just to repeat what I said earlier about Pivot, that was the spreadsheet that I mentioned earlier. Again, it was just one pass and they're just ideas, but in terms of advancement, does Pivot, and I hope everybody knows about Pivot. You can certainly find it on your CIS webpage. You can, and also just sort of activate yourself if you haven't done it. Activate yourself with respect to Pivot. I know you're all activated. I can tell by your enthusiasm, but does Pivot play? Do you think it does a good job? I'll say it that way, in terms of like foundation opportunities. Is that a good place to start?
I think it does a great,
because I
think it does a great job with like government, like NIH or NSF, like those types of opportunities. We did glance over the spreadsheet that was pulled, and there are a number of opportunities that would be really great, like broader opportunities that I think would be very applicable and relevant. However, there are several too that aren't, or like geographically, none of these foundations are funding in Utah, for example. So, with foundations, I think that's why, that's one of the services that we provide, or how we can help you. So when you're going into Pivot and you're pulling these lists, if, you can even send them to us and we can tell you, you're probably going to have a better shot. I mean, all foundation funding is very competitive. I mean, I just kind of want to put that out there, but we can pull out the foundations that you may have a better shot in getting funding with.
Thank you. And then Daniel has put a couple things in the chat. Did you want to just comment on those, Daniel?
Yeah, just in addition to Pivot, I put this in. We regularly post to Researchers Corner, which has really excellent resources, but particularly with the foundations, there's a lot there. And then this Philanthropy News Digest is one of our, tricks of the trade, because there's just a lot of RFPs that go live there that, probably most make it to Pivot, but not all. So I think those are a couple extra resources. And yes, just exactly to Lynn and Gwen's points, we definitely help do the match.com, and we can, for those foundations that are a little bit more rare, we can scour every known university relationship, funding relationship, and try to find somebody who's kind of familiar with the process. But for the ones that are better known, like Lynn is, a campus expert on the KEC process. We're learning more and more with each proposal on Mellon. So I think there's a lot that we can share in your kind of funding search.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those are great links to have. Were there others on the call who had questions for Lynn, Daniel, or Gwen, just on the foundation side, beyond what we've already covered?
Would it help if do you want us to flash a few of the open opportunities up, or is that, it's up to you, but Gwen has maybe 5 that she put together that are just a slide each.
Sure, for a few minutes, I think that'd be terrific. Yeah, thank you.
I
think if you want to share screen, are you going to put it in the chat, or just going to say them? What would you like to do?
I'll share the screen, I think.
I think we make it global so everybody can.
Yeah, did that work?
Yeah.
I don't know now if I play from start, is that still going to work? Can you see that?
Yep, I think on my side, it looks like it's
okay.
working.
I'll just actually skip through these and go to the opportunities. So WT Grant has an opportunity every year on reducing inequality in youth outcomes. And I won't go through them in great detail. I just want to kind of give you a sense of the space in which we work. So Robert Wood Johnson Foundation has calls all year, often focused on equity specifically. This is their interdisciplinary research leaders program, which is for mid-career researchers. It's 2 researchers at the university paired with a 3rd community organization. And we've had successful teams funded at the U and some others recently that have made it to the finalist round. Russell Sage has a number of areas. The next round that's opening has these areas: behavioral economics, decision-making, future of work, and social, political, and economic inequality. But within those, they're particularly interested in research to focus on systemic racial inequality. So you fit the LOI, you fit those program areas, but then you can also focus on racial inequality or the research, the effects of COVID-19. Ford this one's open all the time, right, Gwen? So just rolling. And you can learn more by looking at Ford's website, or we're happy to talk about it in more detail. I don't know as much about this one. Do you, Gwen?
No, actually, this is a new one for me as I was pulling together opportunities for this discussion. I just happened to find this one and thought it was relevant to disparities, and that this group would probably have interest in.
I saw sorry, just going to say, I saw the climate change, and I don't know whether maybe Brenda and Tabitha might have come across that, or maybe know something about. That was the one I had never heard of before, the ones you've shown.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys?
I've never heard of that one before either, and I've spent a lot of time looking, so it must be new.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed the climate change connection. Which one had a mention of?
It was the very
J.M. Kaplan Fund. Okay. I wrote it down because I was like, ooh.
All right, I closed it quickly. But Gwen is scouring foundation websites every day. We put together a list every couple of weeks. And so at any moment in time, there are probably 4 or 5 open that deal with disparities and racial inequality. Those are definitely a theme right now with foundations overall. So we're always happy to share those.
I just posted the link, the Kaplan link, in the chat too.
I'm curious what you guys would recommend in terms of, encouraging faculty to just go for some of these foundation opportunities, or is it something that the university needs to be more coordinated around, where there's, a certain number of strategic applications going in, or should we just have at it? What do you think?
So always reach out to us, and we're happy to talk, because there are some foundations where we call them limited submission opportunities, where you have to apply internally. The ones that we just listed are all open, so there's no limit on the number of applications per institution. And so if you feel your project is well aligned, then we would definitely say to go for it. But we like to offer any kind of value add that we can, whether that's helping you to strategically align to the foundation's mission, or being a second set of eyes and offering comments on a draft. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. That is a terrific question. And again, it's not about gatekeeping. It's really about, we feel like, if we can just add 10% to the proposal to make it just that little bit more likely. In all cases, we think it can be, we hope it can be helpful in these processes. So if, we also try to provide a really fast turnaround as well. So we won't hold you up by 3 months as we, hem and haw. We'll try to get back to you as quickly as we can.
Can I ask a technical question about foundation funding? My understanding is we're not allowed to put F&A on that, right? So it's not, there's no overhead associated with those. Is that correct?
So OSP will honor the stated rate cap of a foundation. So it will vary foundation by foundation, but if your foundation guidelines cap indirect costs at 12%, then that's the amount that you'll write into your proposal.
I'm just curious how university leadership feels about encouraging research funded by foundations if they're not getting sort of the institutional support from the returned overhead from those types of awards as they do, say, from NIH or NSF type.
So for a behavioral researcher in our college, generally foundations are a much more likely option for you. You're very unlikely to get the other grants. So we don't really have as many options to do those sorts of things unless we collaborate with people on the other side of campus.
Yeah, and maybe I had one other thing I just want to mention about the RDC, but I did just one other detail, and has to do with graduate students, and we're always trying to support our students, and I assume for foundation support for that, you're still able to provide insights and directions and opportunities and things like that. And I know some of these that you just mentioned may allow for graduate student support. I don't know, but what would be your quick response to funds for graduate support?
I mean, there are certainly opportunities that exist out there. It just really depends on the foundation. But I've met with graduate students or PhD students or postdocs looking for funding, and really we'll work with anyone. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we qualify then.
And a lot, most foundation funding at this point is really like programmatic. So as you're suggesting, the graduate students will end up being a line item in the program budget.
Okay. We have about 10 minutes, and I wasn't quite sure how this was going to go, but I did want to just take the prerogative here of mentioning the Wasatch Front Research Data Center, and for doing work in this admittedly very broad area. And I know some of you have heard me talk about it, but I think it's a great opportunity. And I don't know if people on the advancement side are aware of it, but so we have a secure data center in the Gardner Commons, which allows approved researchers to get to restricted federal data, and it's really an immense amount of data that you can, in theory, get access to. You have to get approval, but to get access to it, you have to be physically in the room. That is the one stipulation that is the one price you pay, I guess, to gain access to this information. And in the broad areas that all of you have been talking about, be it environmental or program-based or trends over time, or some issue of distributional issues about inequality, the RDC, and actually Ellis mentioned it earlier, it's really just a great opportunity, and it can be that catalyzing ingredient that might get you over the funding line because of the nature of the data, the high quality of the data. So I would just bring that to everybody's attention. I serve as the executive director of our RDC, and one of my jobs is to make sure people are aware of it. So I say it often whenever I can, and we want to show that it can actually bring value to the research community at the University of Utah. It's great because we are actually a consortium. We're the home, but we have BYU and USU as part of our consortium. And so I'm just saying that if you have questions about that kind of big data and you're looking for interesting data, and since Ellis is already part of it, you might want to talk to him as well. So I'm offering up Ellis's time. Thank you, Ellis, for volunteering. Anyway, it's just so you make you aware of that. So we have about 10 minutes left, but I just want to see where people want to go with this, or if anybody wants to propose having a follow-on meeting, or any thoughts at this point. I'll just sort of open up the floor. Gwen, did you want to add something?
Well, I'd just like to say if anyone would like to meet with me or with Daniel, Lynn, or myself, please feel free to reach out. I took notes on all of your introductions and what you're working on. So if I come across any opportunities while I'm sort of doing my daily comb through of foundation funding opportunities, I'm happy to send them to you.
Okay, that's terrific. And Cindy, although Cindy, your camera's a little bit off, but I hope you're there. Cindy Brown. I don't know if you can hear me. You're on mute if you're talking, Cindy. Okay, I was going to give her an opportunity to. I didn't really ask her to respond, but okay, Brenda, yeah.
Hi, Ken. I just wanted to wrap up from my perspective saying, I think as this Fair and Equitable Societies initiative actually gets going to the point where there's funding available that faculty and groups can apply for and try to get to, I think it would be exciting to also be at the same time coordinating and applying to some of these foundation opportunities for matching funds. I think we could really leverage things. I mean, I think there's some big things the university could do in this space, but with the amounts of money we sometimes have available, we'll probably need to be going after a lot of different pots of money. And there's things, we're working on this year around climate resilience and going into sort of a climate action planning process that's going to include issues around disparities and environmental change in that process. So is there research we can be doing as this institutional work is happening that kind of benefits long-term? I think there's some exciting opportunities there, but would love to follow up with anyone who's interested in thinking about some of that stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. And I did want to add one other fact as far as I know it, and maybe we could collectively do just a little bit of lobbying. But I did speak to Dan Reed, and I know he's had some formal presentations about the Fair and Equitable Society initiative. And the one thing I mentioned earlier, which is to hire an executive director to come in and just be kind of the czar over this area. And so in terms of providing some startup money to get things going, pilot money, he has mentioned that publicly as a possibility. And my question to him just the other day was whether that has crystallized in any way. And here I quote, "Not yet, maybe fall."
Yeah, that's all the rumors I've heard are in next year, there may be some funding opportunities. So I think it's a chance to get organized and be ready for when they are.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly the message. Yeah. So I think I like to be optimistic on two fronts. One is that things will happen just because it's time, the time is right, but also the candidates that we are interviewing to be the executive directors, they were finalists because they want to also inject enthusiasm and resources to get people moving on this. So I think until that person comes on site, maybe things are a little bit on hold in that respect. But I think while that is all happening, I think we can certainly convey to your deans and such about your abiding interest in this area, and we really want to make this a powerful initiative. We don't want it to be something less than what it can be. So Anyway, Dan knows that we're having these meetings, that we're pushing on this front. We're trying to encourage grant proposals and foundation applications, and we want there to be a coordination of this and sort of central administration support for it. So
and I have one question. Do we
sure,
have time?
David.
So, and maybe this is for Lynn or Daniel, or maybe Annie has some thoughts. So some of the grants, like the RWJ one, is really community focused, you know, and needs to involve some kind of nonprofit organization. And I'm curious if in part of your efforts, you're facilitating relationships with some of the community members, you know, especially making sure, you know, like if all of us are reaching out to them, maybe it's overburdening, especially for like UNP or some of the big ones like that. Anyways, I'm just wondering if they're communicating with you all like, oh, this is what we need. And, you know, if there are ways in which connections with researchers here on campus can kind of naturally be made in areas where they're actually really interested in themselves.
Thank you, David. That's a great question. I'll just take a stab at this because in my last, at the center where I worked, we worked with a lot of local community organizations. And so far coming into this work, I've seen that a lot of the recent successful proposals have involved community organizations in one way or another, especially for instance with Mellon Foundation, where it was a real important part of the proposal. And it seems to be a new trend among foundations to really want to, you know, make those ties between universities and local community organizations, nonprofits, governments. So I guess I would kind of volunteer to say that's a service we should definitely consider and be helpful on. And it's something, you know, I think a lot of us have those kinds of connections. So as I meet with people, I'll probably try to probe at those and see where they are. But I think, yeah, just given our kind of central, you know, air traffic control capabilities, that should be involved there. So if we can be helpful on that front, certainly to try to find out, okay, we have these connections to, obviously UNP is an obvious one, but you know, Utah Community Action, or, you know, any of the local nonprofits that are kind of on our radar, we can help facilitate those conversations.
Great, David, thanks for the question, and Daniel, that's a great response. So that's very encouraging. I think we're pretty much out of time. As I mentioned, I have to jump to this other obligation. And in speaking of facilitating, I know you can only do so much in 1 hour. So if people want to reach out to Nexus and to me, in terms of any follow-up on, you know, ideas and team building, and even helping coordination with grant proposal ideas, yeah, I would just invite you to just contact me. And so that would be the one sort of parting shot I would give. The other thing is that if any of you or your colleagues who maybe couldn't join us today want to propose another brainstorming, maybe on a more narrow topic that you want to get people together and to sort of flesh it out, we're happy to help if you need the help. And so I would just offer that as well, something Nexus can do. So, and so I would hope this is just our first date. First dates are great. Second dates can be even better. So if you want to, if we want to have a continuous conversation, there were others who couldn't make it. I'm happy to set that up, and we may just do that unilaterally anyway and just offer it again to get more ideas. So anybody have any parting
Ken,
shots?
real quick, I wonder if we could offer to distribute the email list to each other.
Yes, sure. We could do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Rick. Yeah, exactly. And then finally, we are going to post this. As I said, we recorded this, so we'll post this on the Nexus website. So if there's any comment or some comment or somebody said something you didn't quite get down, you can review it and share it with others. So, okay. With that, I want to thank everybody for taking your lunch hour to join us. I think this is really terrific, and everybody's doing great work. And go write those proposals.
Thank you all.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Are you there? Steve?
Yes,
How are you?
I didn't know you were trying to reach me. Sorry.
No, you were just sitting there. So I was like, wait a minute.
Well, I was, you know, I guess I'm ashamed to admit I do a little bit of multitasking sometimes.
Oh, we all do it. Come on. I'm the most obvious of the group. It's fine. Nobody cares. How are you? I'm so happy to see you. I was listening to the
Likewise.
podcast on the way back. So it's kind of funny that you're here. I'm like, that's so funny.
So sorry to hear about Ada's bad run-in with the dentist. I mean, that's just like, geez.
So bad. Yeah.
How is she dealing? I mean,
She's
is she
fine.
okay?
She's fine. It was all drama. That's what makes it bad, you know.
Well,
it's
yeah.
completely drama. So yeah, it's okay. It's the age, and she's doing it. It's her thing. Trying to work on it. So
I met with Daniel yesterday.
How did that go?
Well, it was great. I mean, we didn't have much time. We only barely had an hour.
Never has any time.
Both of us actually, but
yeah, that's true too. You never have time either.
But we're going to try to meet I think Monday. I've got to send him some times on Monday. Spend a little more time, and it's I don't quite know how to, to package this and take it. My first impression is, it's highly multidisciplinary. And
yeah, it's a huge opportunity, honestly. It really is. But,
and, especially it's multidisciplinary across hard and soft science. So, that's a great thing.
But there are people in this program now, even more than in political science, that are actually doing that. There's people coming through now that are trying to do these policy, environment-oriented stuff, and the city is picking them up right and left. They can't even graduate them before they get hired.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's great.
So I do think that it's, increasingly a thing that could be, when I think of who's doing some of the science, environment-related stuff in the PA program, they're not Daniel Mendoza, that's for sure.
No, but no,
they know what they're doing. So why not expand on that some and
sure.
maybe take
sure.
advantage.
The other possible spot is something in collaboration with econ.
Yep, that's true too. I mean,
right?
He could really teach in any of those things, and he's also interested in co-teaching, which could be really cool.
He mentioned that.
So
we're gonna. I mean, Monday I'm gonna try with him to sort of outline what his view of I don't know, even a syllabus level might be, topics he wants to cover.
That's a great idea. And I would be interested in co-teaching with them. I suspect others might be also. So that's another thing to consider. But, to get him into, it's like a core class of some kind, or, have him develop some kind of class that, could fill that gap would be really fantastic.
I mean, in PA, as you're probably aware, I mean, the only people that have faculty are MPA. So MPP and MIAJ don't have any.
He doesn't need a home. He doesn't need a home. He
needs teaching opportunities, right?
He needs something. He wants something. I think this is my impression, is that he wants, so he can get these teaching opportunities, but they're all over the place. And I think he's trying to find a place where he could carve out a little niche and be teaching, that same class or one or two classes, and be able to, not have his teaching be, like a new setup every time he teaches, which is what keeps happening to him.
I see. Okay,
yeah, I think that's actually a big part of it. And he has to do a certain amount of it. He's great at capstones and stuff like that. People have complimented his capstone, and I know he can do different things like that, but I think he actually wants a class that's substantive of the stuff he actually does too.
What do you think? What do you think?
He wants to showcase him, but he would like to teach, I think, something that's like policy and air quality, light.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. I mean, we got far enough, and I sort of know where his head is anyhow from working with him. So, there wasn't any big surprise.
Yeah. And I told him, like the stuff he doesn't know, he could learn it, because that's how we usually do it. Like we just read the readings before them, like that's how we all develop a new class, when you're doing a topic
1 minute ahead of the class.
Yeah, sometimes you add a new class to your course. It's on a new topic. I do that all the time. I usually do it once or twice a semester at least, So I don't know. I think that's just something, if you don't know the topic, invite someone, or if you, feel like this is important for you to teach this topic and you want to whatever, bring in, Steve one time, and then bring me one time, and then bring somebody else one time. And then that probably would tie all the stuff together if he's worried about that. I don't think he's actually worried about it.
It's personally, interesting to me because, every time I present, no matter what class I do it in, which I'm teaching 2 classes, I teach, 3 classes, micro, macro, principles, and then Mia's capstone. And I present my modeling stuff to them because it's a way to focus in a very organized way on, the next pandemic. And so every time I get a chance to present that, it goes over very well. And I just need to find more of those opportunities and get people thinking in that framework or the modeling terms of how we can, because that helps direct research and
well, with Daniel, I can tell you right now, if I were a department chair, I would want him to teach a class on science policy, science and technology policy. That's what I would call it. I would differentiate it from environment. And I would actually call it.
So that was I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of my thoughts or questions, and I began to talk to him about it, but I don't know what all the politics are with environmental studies would be, right? Are there any there?
I don't think it would be a problem. So Sharon and Brett Clark, I connected them at one point because, Sharon was like talking about doing more environment stuff and that sort of thing. And she also kind of brought up that same thing. Is she going to be stepping on any toes? And they ended up meeting, and he was like, we would encourage somebody to try and get that off the ground. And just between you and I, Brenda Bowen, brought up exactly that, creating some kind of environmental studies department or center that would actually kick off an environmental studies PhD, master's, and maybe even extend the undergrad program. So I know they're talking about it through GCSE, and they're talking about it, I think, also through the TPE, the TPE stuff.
Transformative,
they brought a bunch of those people together to try and see if they could launch a center like that. And I guess they weren't all getting along.
I'm delighted, man. I would be all over that like white on rice.
I mean, why we don't have a graduate program, it just boggles my mind. And every time I bring it up, it's like Myron used to always be so supportive of me because he'd be like, finally, not the only one raising my hand. I'm just thrilled they're doing the climate assessment stuff right now. They're not doing it great, but they're doing it, and it's going to get done on time. And
this was your meeting last week?
So we've been meeting 3-4 times a week sometimes, because we've got student groups doing some of it, and there's a graduate student that's supposed to be coordinating it. She's not doing a very good job. And then I'm in a subgroup also, the economics subgroup. I'm leading the economic subgroup, and then the other subgroups didn't know what they were doing. And then Devin and I had to go and, try and make an example. And it's been a little bit of a mess because it's just starting from the ground up. But I mean, that's the way it should be. And I think Brenda, Carrie, and I are all like, yeah, this is fine. This is, it's a shit show. It's fine. We expect that. But we're not trying to make, the perfect draft. We're trying to do the assessment that will then be used to, basically it's a climate inventory is what we're doing. We're doing a resiliency inventory. And that resiliency inventory will be used to make the first climate assessment. So we're not even technically doing the assessment yet.
So there's a new person in the administrative side of the university for climate, right? Is that person involved in all this?
That's the one I'm working with, yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
Right.
She's awesome. I cannot say enough good thing about it. She's doing everything perfectly. She's totally got it right. I'm thrilled with her approach. She's really open-minded. She's doing all these great things. She's herself just like constantly on the ground floor doing the work. I mean, I'm thrilled. I could not be more happy with what she's doing. She's leading by example, all that kind of cool stuff. And it's like really exciting to be around. And so as much of a pain in the ass as it's been, it's Brenda and now this other person that's like twin Brenda. It's like you can't get any better than this.
Great.
So I'm just thrilled and eating it up, even though it's been this like thing that I didn't expect.
It's a time sink for you.
Yeah, and what's happened is they're trying to get the whole thing, the part that Ruth Watkins needs to sign off on. They're trying to get it done by March 24th, and they were trying to get it on her desk and signed off. So now instead of having through May, we have through March 24th.
I see.
So that's been.
I thought you were shedding tears over Ruth leaving. It's the timing of Ruth's leaving.
I'm really sad that Ruth's leaving. I'm
Yeah,
worried,
I mean, it was.
worried that they're going to take Reed out of his spot and all different things like that that are like, without VP Dan Reed, I'm like a shooting duck. What is that called? Like this rotating ducks. Yeah, I become vulnerable without him in a position like that. So I don't want to see him moved, or if he's brought up to the university level, I hope the things he believes and feels strongly about, that they replace him with somebody that also feels that, because otherwise all the stuff I've been doing with research, that's all going to go away now too. And then why am I here?
Yeah, I would find that'd be a surprise. I think if there were that big a change at the top.
Well, they're talking about taking VP Dan Reed and at least making him interim. They were going to bring the guy over from the medical school, but I guess Dan Reed is actually interested in the job. So
they already announced that, though.
I don't know what's going on with it. I just keep hearing different things. So
they already announced that. What's his name from medical? It's not Wood. What's his name?
Yeah, from the medical school. Shit, I just realized.
They already announced him as interim.
I had a phone call I was supposed to go on.
No.
I gotta run. Sorry. Wait.
Well.
Yeah, I do. That's
okay.
All right,
okay. Well, I'm glad we had a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Always delightful seeing with you,
So
hanging
nice
out.
to see you too. Thanks for sending the podcast. That was awesome.
Excellent.
All right, we'll talk soon.
And you tell Ada that I'm thinking of her in her times of stress.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
See you.
Bye.